not about writing long answers, objective type questions, and standardized test scores. Real life is about talking, articulating thoughts, discussions. Once you enter corporate world, I'm sure all of you would agree with me that you're not writing any more questions and answers. You're talking all the time. Working hard towards convincing people, working hard towards influencing your boss or your clients. The moment we want to say something, there are a lot of inhibitions that comes in between us, and they have been trained not only in public speaking and leadership, but also in skills that goes beyond public speaking, which is articulating thoughts in the right manner. Today we are going to have a panel discussion. You all know the topic, and many of you have asked your questions. I have those questions with me. And those questions, they are not aware, and they are going to talk based on their experiences. Ready to go? Okay. Prasad, what does it take to complete high school successfully?
I believe, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe that one quality that especially that's critical to completing high school is accepting criticism. Throughout high school, I've noticed that teachers and parents alike criticize me for literally every action I take. But in the long run, I know that everything they're saying is just advice for me to get better. And throughout high school, I've tried to become more accepting of criticism, and thanks to Priya's class, I have become more accepting of criticism. And I don't look at it in a negative way now. I look at it in a positive way as something that's just going to enrich my lifestyle and make me a better person overall.
Okay. Sai, how do you approach doing things that you really don't like to do?
Oh, so how I approach things that I really don't like to do. Well, what I used to do was that I used to push it off to the very last minute, and then beyond that, and just keep on pushing it back over and over again, and I let the problem just build up into one big unmanageable mess. But then I realized probably in my freshman year that if you keep doing that, you end up having this problem that you can't solve. And so what happened to me was I was doing a social studies project with my friend, and both of us really did not want to do this project. And so we ended up not working on it at all, and we ended up being a week late with it not finished yet. And that's when I really realized that if you keep pushing stuff back really far, then you're not going to end up with the result that you really want. And after that point, I decided just do all the stuff that you don't want to do when you have to do it, and don't push it back to the last minute.
Okay, that's nice. What are your thoughts on this particular question, Nitin?
Personally, I also don't like to get things done when they need to be done. But at the end of the day, if it helps me, like if it's helpful for school or college in the long run, I end up doing it because I know that it's going to help me if I do it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are many parents who have actually not gone through high school. Most of them would not have gone through high school in the US. Now, you're probably the only four or the top four who have gone through the entire school system. So I thought that a few questions about high school and other things will not only educate the teenagers out here, but also the parents. Generally in high school, what percentage of your week goes towards academics?
Well, it depends on how much of workload we usually get. I would say that like when I have like several tests or like quizzes the day, like next day, or like in 2 days or something like that, about like 60% of my week goes towards studying. And not only that, but I've learned that it's important to manage your time wisely and make like a schedule and cut things out so that you know when to do what, so that you won't procrastinate till the last minute and leave it to the last minute, so that you could actually finish it on time and get a good grade for it.
Okay, that's a good one. Nitin, I'm sure many of the teenagers here are very skeptical or more worried about high school, especially the people who are transitioning from middle school to high school. Describe one challenging situation you faced in high school so that they can be prepared.
One challenging situation that I faced was definitely the standardized tests that you need to take in high school to get into a good college. For example, the SATs and ACTs are really important because the scores that you get in these tests is what determines like basically your life and what college you end up going to. So I know the SATs and ACTs can be like really challenging for a lot of people, and my advice that I would give to the people who are also taking these tests would be to start as early as possible, because the earlier you get done with these tests, the easier your life will be in high school. Because personally, I know many students who take the test like sophomore year and they get it done for junior year. So this makes their junior year like less stressful, as they don't have to worry about these standardized tests as well, because junior year is a really stressful year with schoolwork and extracurriculars. So getting these standardized tests done with before would really be helpful.
Great, that would be good. Yep.
Another challenge that most high schoolers are going to face throughout their high school career is working with other people. In my freshman and sophomore year, most classes have a group project where you have to work with many high schoolers. And I've always been the cynical sort of person who would always criticize how one person didn't do their work, or how they didn't do it to the standard that needs to be, they didn't exceed the expectations. But I've learned that that isn't the most effective way of communicating with your peers, because it only spirals down to either a bad grade on the project or just disappointment in the group. And so junior year and senior year, I've tried to change my attitude to be more positive in a group project so that it sort of spreads and becomes, I guess, like a disease in such a way, but a positive disease. And so that most high schoolers will become more positive when doing their work. And a positive environment is much better than working in a negative environment.
Wow, that's nice. With regard to what Prasant just added and Nitin said, what are your thoughts in general about high school and the SAT preparation?
So going back to the SAT preparation, which is what Nitin was talking about, what he said was really true. The sooner you get your SATs done, the easier it is. For me personally, I started studying for the SAT in the summer of sophomore year, and I finished it all up then, and then by the time junior year came around, I took my test in October, and I didn't have to worry about SATs or any other standardized tests for the entirety of junior year, and that gave me a lot more time to focus just on school and other extracurricular activities. And adding on to what Prasant said about group work, one big problem with high schoolers and group work is that many high schoolers decide that in the middle of the night is the best time to start working on group work. And so oftentimes you'll just get messages in the middle of the night saying, okay, let's start working on the group project now. And if you want to avoid staying up all night, you really should start working earlier on.
Going off of Sai's point, one of the biggest challenges that I faced in high school was time management. I was one of the students who was like, okay, I'll leave it to the last minute, and I'm like, oh, I could finish it. But then after junior year, I realized that I need to manage my time wisely if I need to get into a good college. And then I started spacing things out, and then it worked out really well.
Very nice. So now that we have the mic, I'll just go with you. Volunteering is a day-to-day word in high school. Everybody talks about volunteering, and parents always are very skeptical about what kind of volunteer activities that they need to do It's more like, check marks. Okay, my kid needs to do this, in order to get to that Ivy League. What do you think is the right kind of voluntary activities, or what do you really need to do in order to make it there?
I actually like this question very much because I volunteered in a lot of places, like different types of fields, because one for hours, but then later on when I was like volunteering in like sophomore year or junior year, I focused my volunteering towards like my career, what I want to be. I want to pursue a medical career as a doctor. So I went to hospitals and I would go to like clinics and volunteer over there. And going back to your question, I feel like a student should volunteer in a place where they feel like they could give as much as they can offer. Like, you should be able to put your passion into it and strive for it. It needs to be something that interests you. You can't just go just for the hours.
What are your thoughts on the same question, Prasanth?
So my experience in volunteering occurred at a hospital. I personally do not want to pursue any sort of field in the medical side. However, I still volunteered in a hospital because I felt like that's one of the only places I could really volunteer at and give my all. But as Shruti said, you should try and find a place where that you're passionate about and you would put your full effort into, and you would learn more. Because when I was volunteering at the hospital, I learned a lot of skills, how to deal with people mostly, because at a hospital you're going to talk to people all the time. And when you volunteer, you don't want to do it for the hours, but you want to do it for the experience.
Okay, that's very nice. Getting into an Ivy League is a rat race, all of us know. And somehow or the other, straight from kindergarten, they somehow enter this race, irrespective of the gender, the culture, or anything. Everybody gets into it. Sai, what strategies do you use for your college applications to stand out?
So to really stand out from the other applicants in their college applications, well, for one, you're going to need to have a lot of extracurriculars, but it's not really about the number of extracurriculars that determines if you're going to stand out to Ivy League colleges or any other colleges. It's more how much time you commit to your extracurricular activities and how much effort you put in that really matters. You can do 10 or 20 different extracurricular activities, but it won't be as good as doing a couple of extracurricular activities that you dedicate a lot of your time to.
Go ahead.
During my college application process, most of the colleges I applied to asked for an essay describing what I want to do in their college. And I feel like this is the best place to express your interest in a college, especially if you want to go to that college. And you have to do a lot of research, try to understand every single thing you possibly can concerning that college, concerning your field of major. And I feel like once you put your all into that essay, you really capture the admissions interests, and possibly you could land the spot in college.
Adding on to Prasanth, I agree that we should, when someone is applying to college, they should put all their interests into the college essay. But not only that, most of the times, like including myself, we were trying to satisfy or like please like the college admission officers. Maybe if we include like our extracurriculars in the essay, they might think that, oh, we're better than other people, but that's not what actually matters. It's what you're passionate about, and it's what you have learned and experienced throughout high school. That's what really matters in the essay.
Yeah, I agree with what Shruti said. It's not really a matter of like how many things you do. It's a matter of where your interests lie and where you're passionate. For example, a lot of people, they have misconception that they must be like a jack of all trades and be good at extracurriculars and get a good SAT score and do a significant number of extracurriculars. But that's actually not true, as the college admission officers look for if you look for students who pick like one or two things that they like to do and excel in that, rather than like try a bunch of different things and not be like significantly great at any of those. So it's,
Okay. And I see a lot of middle school students here too, starting from 6th grade and up. When do you think is the right age to start preparing for getting into an Ivy League?
I think the earlier you start, the better. For example, because personally, I only started thinking about colleges like my sophomore year and junior year of high school. So you don't really learn that much about colleges if you start later. But I would personally start, like the earlier you start, the better. For example, if you start in middle school, you can start by visiting colleges and thinking of what you would like to do and what major you intend to pursue, as this will help save a lot of time when you get into high school, because high school is more about like there's a lot of tests and there's a lot of tests that you have to take, and like I said before, standardized tests. So I feel like the earlier you start like visiting colleges or maybe researching online about these colleges, it can save a lot of time when you get to high school.
What are your thoughts on this side?
Well, obviously, starting earlier is better, but I don't think you should start looking at colleges too early, because you never know what exactly you want to do. For me personally, I only realized what I wanted to do in my sophomore year, which was program cars and work for a company like Tesla. But yeah, so I wouldn't really know exactly what sort of college I would want to go to until that point. So while it is good to start considering what your qualifications and your extracurriculars and other stuff, I feel that seriously looking at colleges, you can wait a little later on.
Point I'd like to add, I agree with everything Sai says, but I feel like you should start a little bit earlier, around 8th grade. Two things why I mean, there are two reasons why I think 8th grade is the best time to start. One is time. When you're in 8th grade, you don't have to worry about all the stresses of high school, like standardized testing, extracurriculars, and so on. And so you have enough time during the summer or even during the school year to visit colleges, choose a whole bunch of colleges, and create a list. And while you go through high school, you can try and refine that list to make it more suitable to what you want to pursue. And lastly, I think 8th grade is the best time to start looking at colleges, because most teenagers are mature enough to understand what they're trying to do when trying to pursue a college. They won't just randomly pick as you would if you were a kindergartner. But in 8th grade, you're mature enough to understand what kind of colleges you want to look forward to or pursue.
Okay. Shruti, I have a question for you. The rat race always starts with placing the child in a particular school district. And that's how it all starts. Oh, I go there because the school district is very good. So is it really necessary for a student to be in a very competitive, highly acclaimed school district in order to get into Ivy League?
Well, I feel like it depends on the person, because I've been in a competitive school district and I had a lot of challenges, obstacles along the way, which I had to overcome. But at the end, I felt like it prepared me for college better than maybe someone who's coming from like a non-competitive school district, because the rigor in the courses helps you manage your time wisely and then prepare for your other classes as well. So I feel like a student would be able to handle the coursework better if they're in a competitive school district, but it doesn't mean that a person from a non-competitive school district cannot get into an Ivy League. Like, it just depends on the student itself. If a student performs really well in their academics and also has like an extracurricular that they're very passionate about and pursues it, I feel like regardless of school district, they should be able to get into an Ivy League.
Yeah, personally, I agree with what Shruti said. Obviously, being in a competitive school district would help in college, during your school years, you'll be with hardworking students and students who focus on academics and extracurriculars. So if you're stuck with these type of students, this will give you the motivation to push yourself and work harder, which is essential to have when you go to an Ivy League college, as you'll be with a bunch of students who want to push themselves to put really hard and succeed. So obviously, having a prior experience in a competitive school district would help, but that doesn't mean that you can't make it to an Ivy League school, even if you're not in a competitive school district. But it definitely helps, as you already have experience. You already have the experience that you're going to face in an Ivy League school.
But yes, we need a challenging situation, but do you think it is going to be very stressful for teenagers that they are not able to handle? Because we talk a lot about stress in high school. So is it worth it?
I mean, getting into an Ivy League is obviously worth it, because after graduating from an Ivy League, employers would look at which college you came from, and if you came from an Ivy League school, it obviously would look better than a student that came from a non-Ivy League school. But ultimately, I feel it's up to the students and what they can handle, because if they can't handle the stress and difficulties that comes with being in a competitive school district, I wouldn't suggest doing so. But if you feel like you can handle the stress and you can face these challenges and succeed, I would definitely suggest, yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
So, while it is good to get a really good school like an Ivy League, it only really matters for your starting job. Once you've landed your starting job, then it's more your work experience and all the projects you do and what you do with your life that matters, like, later on. And so yes, an Ivy League will give you the education that you need to be successful later on, and it will make you more attractive to future employers. Even if you don't go to an Ivy League, you can still show through your work experience that you can handle a good job and you can succeed.
Do you have anything to add, Prasan?
So putting your kid through, like I'm speaking to the parents, putting your kid through a competitive school environment is a good way to introduce them to the stresses and competitiveness of high school and possibly an Ivy League school. And as most of these speakers said, it really depends on the student if they're able to handle all the stresses that a competitive high school can throw at them. And while you go through high school, you become more accustomed to the competitiveness and the stresses of high school, and you'll learn from those experiences. And hopefully it'll land you with a spot in Ivy League or even a good college, and that's really enough to boost your morale and keep you going on in life and help you land that first job and help you succeed in life.
Sai, picking electives is one big thing that is happening right from middle school to high school. How do you think both the electives they do, the college course or the AP or the honors course or the AP course, how much is it worth to tax ourselves in order to beat the rapids?
So electives, since in our district we're required to do electives in addition to all the other courses we have, I think it's better, you should do something that you really like doing. And since it's offered in middle school as well, middle school would be the time to sort of try out all the different electives, maybe even the ones that you don't think you really want to do, because you never really know what you want to do until you really find it. But then once you get to high school, it's better to focus on the electives that in the field that you want to pursue later on. And I feel that even if you take a rigorous workload, that it's always good to focus on your electives, because that will help you with the skills that you need later on in life if it pertains to your career choice.
Okay. Nitin, is it worth it?
The Ivy League?
No,
Electives.
the electives and the rigorous courses. Because what we see is a lot of students who stress themselves too much and push themselves too much and finally get stressed out and sometimes not able to achieve that straight A because of the rigorousness of the courses that they have picked. So what is the right strategy that you can share with the audience?
I mean, ultimately, I think it comes to depending on what type of student you are and how many courses you think you can handle. Because for some students, they can handle taking like a high number of APs and they can still manage their time wisely and even spend time on extracurriculars. But other students, on the other hand, they can't compete with this amount of stress that they put on themselves. And so for those type of students, I would suggest taking like 1 or 2 APs and succeed and doing well in those classes. So I don't really see a general strategy that will work. So I think it's ultimately up to the type of student and how much they can handle without getting too stressed out.
Okay, you have anything to add, Shruti?
I agree with what Sai said previously, and I agree with Nitin as well. It's important that we choose electives that we have an interest towards, especially like in middle school. I chose electives that I personally liked, and I wanted to explore a variety of fields because at that time we don't know our career, like we don't like solidify like a choice that we want to pursue this. It's our time to explore, get to know different types of fields. But once we come to high school, it's important, or it's better if you gear yourself towards the career you're choosing. Maybe for instance, if you want to major in like computer science, maybe take a few computer electives if it interests you. But I feel like it's interest and then gearing yourself towards the career is what matters most in high school.
Okay. Prasad, if you could start your high school all over again, what is one thing that would you do differently?
I guess an obvious answer is don't procrastinate. Procrastination is a big problem in high school, mostly because we try to put off work that we don't want to do at the time, and as a result it just becomes a huge workload in the end, and it just won't pay off. I just want to tell my younger self not to procrastinate because I've had many sleepless nights doing work I should have done the week before, and I deeply regret that.
Yeah, so that's what happened to me my freshman year. For me, my freshman year was my hardest year of high school because coming from middle school where there wasn't really that much work and you could easily do it the night before or very close to the deadline. Moving on to high school where you really need to pace yourself and you need to manage your time well. It was really hard for me to adjust, and that's why that was my worst year of high school, and that's definitely what I would change if I could restart my high school career.
Yeah, definitely procrastinating is a big issue that's going on. But personally, for me, I feel that if I would have started high school, if I started high school all over again, I would get involved in more clubs and school activities after school, because I've spent most of my time during high school studying for exams and tests and doing homework. But now when I'm getting closer to applying to colleges, I feel that I should have spent at least more time on clubs and extracurricular activities because I haven't really done that much clubs in school, so I feel that participating in clubs would definitely help as well to getting into a good college.
I completely agree that procrastination is something that I would totally change if I were to start high school again. But another thing that I might have done differently is learning how to work with each other. Just like Prasan said before, like it's important to learn how to work with people in projects. Like if someone's not doing their job, their part in a specific group or like a project that you have to hand in, you kind of have to speak up and tell them how you feel and ask them to get it done. Because I remember that I kind of let it go and then I end up staying up like 2 a.m. sometimes and then finishing it up. So I feel like it's important to learn how to work with people because in the long run, it's going to help you not only in high school but also in your real life as well.
Okay, before I go on for the last question, I just want to know if the judges have any questions to the panel.
Can can ask one.
Yeah.
You can repeat the question so that people can hear. What do you think are the prospects of success in science? I think one of you partly addressed it, but I want to address that. What are the prospects of success and satisfaction for a student who does not make it to an Ivy League and instead attends a non-Ivy League or a state institution? And for that matter, an individual who doesn't go to college.
Okay, so the question was, what are the prospects for success and happiness for students that don't make it into Ivy League colleges or don't go to college? So you can still succeed in life even if you don't go to an Ivy League school, because many institutions do provide good education, and if you try hard enough and you make the effort to improve yourself and learn more about your field, and then also work even harder, then you can, in your job and your other like basic projects that you do later on, you'll be able to succeed and do well even if you don't get that branded Ivy League like title on your resume.
Yeah, I also agree with what Sai said. That you can still be successful even if you don't go to a non-Ivy League school. I mean, even if you don't go to an Ivy League school, because all the employers look for is experience that you gain from these 4 years of college. So even if you don't go to an Ivy League, you can still be successful. For example, if someone goes to an Ivy League, like an Ivy League school, doesn't try that hard in what they do, and they don't try hard about these 4 years, and they don't learn anything, and they don't gain any experience. But compared to a student who goes to a non-Ivy League school, but shines there and learns, like gains a lot of experience those 4 years in that particular college, I feel that that student would have an edge, as they have gained a lot of experience in college compared to other student who went to an Ivy League school but didn't really perform that well in that school. So even though I feel like the Ivy League is all a hype and it's just basically a name that doesn't really matter at all, personally I know a lot of people who have not gone to an Ivy League school, but they're still successful now and they're living a good life. So I personally feel that even if you don't go to an Ivy League school, you can still be successful in life.
Any other questions? I would like to have one question if you have from the audience. Yeah.
As you go through your high school year and topic on Ivy League, how much has it been hyped up by people outside of you, people that influence the process, people who have a significant influence in you, people in the school, the administration, friends and family, versus some of the thoughts that you just expressed, that it's an entry point, but it's not the exclamation, it's not necessarily the period at the end of the sentence. So just curious about your thoughts on how you've seen the other external influences on this process.
You want to repeat the question to the audience, just in case?
It was a pretty long question.
You want me to go over it again?
I mean, no, I got the question.
It's okay, you start answering. I just need the information, it's fine.
So basically what he asked was, what kind of experiences throughout high school have affected my perspective on Ivy League, and is it really worth all the hype that's put around the name? That's like a brief summary. And throughout high school, many students have set their minds on getting into an Ivy League. It became such a prominent mindset that I thought it was a good way to have a dream, have a goal to set an Ivy League as your destination. However, when I did that, I failed to forget that life is a journey, not a destination, and I failed to forget all the moments that happened during freshman and sophomore year, because all I focused on was just getting into an Ivy League. And I didn't learn all the experiences I possibly could have, because most people were just saying, oh, all you have to do is just get into an Ivy League and you'll be set for life. And now I realize that you can't just set your mind to something that big and not focus on the journey there. You not focus on all the experiences, all the memories that you can make in high school. And I believe that, yes, Ivy Leagues are hyped up to such a point that they become just a brand that people need in this day and age. And I believe that many other colleges are on par, if not better, than Ivy Leagues, and many people are just forgetting about them because Ivy Leagues just have such a big name nowadays.
Anybody wants to try? We're all.
I agree with Prasan. And if I were to like define Ivy League, I would say that it definitely does not define success, because most of the time, students who are coming out of high school, they're not going to just stop with an undergrad degree. They're possibly going to go to grad school and pursue other careers. And Ivy League doesn't teach you everything that you need in life. Like, it's all like the experience and the moments that you've learned and any obstacles that you face which really matter, rather than the Ivy League that you want to get into. Like, it's almost like a requirement nowadays in high school. Once you enter high school, it's like, oh, I have to get into an Ivy League or else I'm not gonna make it. Like, I'm gonna be a failure. But that's technically like wrong, because that's not how it is. Because life is more than that. It's not just school.
Great.